Hey, it's Don. We've just got a few questions and a few things here. Again, I cut them off at a certain time so I can do the video. So video might not go up for 3 or 4 days from the time I shoot it. So I only had a few questions at the time. And then we're going to go into what I've been doing for quite some time and doing some research on Amazon and selling collectibles. We'll discuss that in just a few minutes here. I'm going to show you somebody else's page, their store on Amazon, and we're going to discuss that extensively here for a few minutes. And my thinking on it, you're going to see what a person that makes a ton of money on Amazon selling collectibles, well beyond anything I do, is really like. Anyway, let's go into the questions and then I'll get to this, because this is pretty interesting. I promise you, if you don't find this interesting, you know, maybe this is the wrong place for you in all honesty. But the Amazon thing, collectibles, it may be way bigger than I had even thought with what we sell. So anyway, let's go into the few questions here. Pricing. I had quite a few questions on pricing. Again, I cut this off on, I think it was Sunday night, Monday morning, to shoot the video. So if you had questions past that, I'm not answering it. They'll probably be in the next video. But price-wise, on the price video, if you can't find the same exact item, obviously you're probably not going to in collectibles. We're going to talk about postcards, but don't just think about postcards. It goes for anything that we're talking about in vintage collectibles. If it goes in the collectibles category, this same process is what I do for anything in the collectibles category. Anywhere else is not the same. Records are a whole different ballpark because I have to look at several different sites to come up with a price for a record that's not on eBay, or that is on eBay and has very slim pickings for record information. Low prices on a record may mean nothing if only 2 or 1 sold on eBay. And I've talked about that before, because when people look up prices, if they only see 30 bucks on 1 or 2 examples, they're going to think that's what it's worth. A lot of people don't even consider the fact that it's a bin versus a auction when they're looking up prices. If you do comps and you are not considering those 2 factors, you're doing a search on comps totally wrong. You have to look at both of those factors. Even if you're selling clothing, you'd want to look at the factor of what sold in auction versus what sold at bin. And you'd also want to be comparing which ones had free shipping and not. So you'd want to calculate any shirt or clothing piece that you're selling based on comps of ones in those 4 factors. So you do as a bin, as an auction, if they're doing auctions. Most clothing is an auction, but if it is, you need to compare those 2 categories. You also then need to calculate the total price of the item with shipping included, and then if it's, you know, shipping free, you've already got that total. So those are the 4 factors for a piece of clothing. With vintage collectibles, it's a different atmosphere. Just like I said with records, I got to do Discogs. Amazon I look at a little bit, in eBay as well, and then Craig Moyers or some of these other sites that have records, if it's a high dollar one. Craig Moyers is like a jazz exclusive site. Tefteller is another one. I mean, there's 5 or 6 sites just for records. Most 99% of the people selling records probably wouldn't need but 1 or 2 of those, just because until you've done it for a while, you're not going to know these oddball things. You're probably not going to run into something that scarce. If you were doing records and you run into something scarce, post me a picture of it, and I'll give you the straight dope on the specifics and why I would price it that way, if there's something in that category. I thought about throwing a video together on pricing records, but if you're not really into records, it's going to be a lot of useless information. And unless you're finding a rare record, it's not going to be really practical. Most common records are easy to price by Discogs and PopPsych, as well as eBay. You know, it's a combination of all those. Records are one of the different areas. But with paper, as I said, don't go always by those comp prices. And the question being, you know, there's nothing, it's a 40s postcard, let's say. I'm trying to mix a couple people's questions into one because they're kind of the similar, same kind of thing. And with like a 40s postcard, chances are you're not going to find one identical to it. If it's from a big city, they're super easy. If it's in like Los Angeles, let's just say, it's super easy because there's not many cards in Los Angeles worth much at all. You know, 40 bucks for a Los Angeles card is pretty high. And it's usually going to be a RPPC if it's a Los Angeles card that's worth 40 bucks. There's not many at all that go over that. Now, you know with like Tahoe, there's cards that go for $2,000, $3,000, maybe even $4,000 in the Tahoe section. So, you know, there's a big difference. You know, if it's from the city. If it's a big, huge city, chances are you can price it real easy. Like if it's Chicago, there's not a lot of Chicago cards that are over $100 at all. You know, you're going to learn these facts at some point if you're doing enough postcards. You're going to look up Chicago cards 100 times, 200 times. It may take you to learn it. Or hopefully it only takes you 20 or so, or whatever the case may be. But, you know, I've looked up the same card so many times, you know, or not the same card, I should say, but the same cities so many times, you're going to get the gist of it. Smaller cities or something, let's pick a small city, St. Petersburg, Florida. It's a small city. It's on the coast. Been there myself. I'm sure there's some folks here that know what it is. Look it up if you're curious on the size. It's pretty small. I wouldn't even begin to guess. It's like maybe 30, 40, 50,000 people back in the day. So that type of city size would have potential because it's huge now, or not necessarily huge, but the whole area is packed. The public beaches are gone, and there's condos and all kinds of stuff. Kikino Beach is out in that way when you go to like Honeymoon Island and stuff. And it's a small area, and it's all built up now. So there's a ton of people who live there now. Back in the 20s, or even say 1910, when postcards started to come out, there wasn't many people in that area. So if a drugstores printed them. This is one of the main sources, drugstore and like a dry goods place. When you see dry goods on cards and stuff, it's basically a grocery store. Mostly dry stuff. That meant basically that they probably didn't have refrigeration of any kind or anything like that to keep stuff. You'd have to go to a butcher and all this other kind of stuff to get fresh. They might have had produce, but again, they're dry goods. And these dry goods places would order that. There'd be salesmen coming around, basically photographers. This was somebody who needed some work. And they'd go around, and some of them got famous, and they did photographs for like dignitaries and politicians and things because of what they did. But Sanborn's one you'll see. Type in Ellis or Sanborn. Those are two that started off, you know, mild-mannered and then became big, huge bigwigs in certain areas. Ellis you'll find on like the West Coast in California, Oregon, all over there, even in Las Vegas and Nevada. And there's a bunch of those like that. But these guys would market it. So when they marketed to a small city, they wouldn't be able to produce a ton of them because there wouldn't be enough people that would buy these. So the quantities in small areas and in places you've never heard of are usually very slim. And the amount of those postcards that would be left at this point, let's say they printed 200 postcards, there may be 2 left. There may be 5 left. Look at like Superman issue 1 or something like that. Now this is after Action Comics came out. You got to know a little about comics to know. Action Comics 1 was Superman's first appearance. Superman comic issue 1 came out later. Both of those are scarce. We know how many were printed of Superman 1 and how few are left. And I'm talking a very few of those are left, especially ones in good condition. So the same ratio is even worse in postcards, meaning that some of these small towns, there was minuscule amounts maybe printed to begin with. Maybe the photographer who took the real photo postcards from a town printed 10 of them in his hotel and then went back the next day. Who knows? That kind of stuff happened back in the day. That's not some strange anomaly. You could carry a studio in a cart or a wagon, and a lot of those did that, like you see in movies and stuff like that. Like in Django, where, and I can't think of the character's name, but the tooth guy, the supposed dentist, the same guy that was in Fargo, if you know who that is. But anyway, that guy had a wagon that drove around, and that's what some of these people literally did. I've seen photos and postcards of actual postcard producers on a postcard on several occasions. And there's one in one of the books, one of the prize guides, and I think it's in one of the ones I even showed you. So you've got to know a little something about the origins of some of these items to understand it. Like if it's a trade card, some trade cards use stock images. The image is the same for hundreds and hundreds of companies, but the city that it's from or the locale or even the last name can add value to it. Like if you're pricing a trade card, if the last name is Brown or Jones or something really common, chances are it's not going to have a high value because there's just so many things. A large chunk, and I've said this before, 20-30% could even be on some days, of items that are bought in the paper category, collectibles, any kind of paper, I don't care what it is, are bought because of the last name of the person who ran the place or the last name of the company, whatever the case may be. You're going to run into that if you sell enough like I do. It's just going to become a fact of why some things sell. People buy stuff because of the last name. If I see stuff with my last name, I look into it because my last name's fairly rare. We ran into it at a theme park called Cedar Point once, and it turned out we ended up talking. He was related. My grandfather's sisters were, he had triplets in the family, and one of the triplets had twins, and one of those twins had a kid, and that was the person who was doing the work. He was carving things of wood at Cedar Point, and it was a relative of mine. So usually I look into that. Just because, again, my name very rarely shows up. A lot of the members of my family changed our last name spelling after Hitler came to power because they didn't want that German connotation, because we do have a few members of our family that were still in Germany. And long story short, I'm not going to get into our family history. But so anyway, the point of this is last names sell, and if it's an oddball name, chances are a lot of those cards weren't made. They didn't print them in massive quantities. You didn't spend a lot of money on advertising back in the day. If it was a small town, there wasn't many places to shop in the first place, and everybody knew everybody. So these were luxuries given to the kids and stuff, and most of the images you see on trade cards and things like that are fanciful, something a child would like. You know, it was one of the few premiums. Premiums like Cracker Jacks prizes or gumball machines have been around for a couple hundred years, believe it or not. So that's hard to believe for some people, but they have origins that go very far back. Just like most anything that we do. Posters started with broadsides and the whole works. Broadsides are advertisements. They led into graphical broadsides, which turned into posters and all that of sorts. Postcards started way back in the day. Postcards came about long before most of the price guides say it. I've had graphical postcards from the 1872 era, so I know they've started before that. Fancy covers and cachet covers started in Civil War and before. So like 1830s, you can find cachet covers. Cachet is the image you see, like a commemorative image or a soldier's image or Lincoln's image on the left side of an envelope. That's a cachet. Price-wise, though, on small-town stuff, that's what you want. Those are going to be the hard ones to price. You price, if, let's say, there's 10 other cards from that same town, I try to keep it in the range of that. If they're all lowball, they're all bins, I may add a 3-factor in it. So I might multiple. Let's say you see $7 on the card. I'm going to put maybe $21 on that card, $21.50 or something along that line on it as a bin, especially if the other folks who sold it at $7 were either an auction or a bin without best offer on it. You can see the best offer by the slash line through the item. That's literally the most of the questions that we have here. One of the other questions is on the packing still, which I'm going to show with the new changes and such forth. I have a video shot, but I want to just add a little more wording on adding in the new changes with dimensional shipping to that video. So in a way, I'm glad I didn't put it up yet because it will steer it as well, too. I'm going to probably reshoot just a section of it to give you a little better information on how to keep dimensional weights and stuff down. So anyway, right now we're going to go over to the screen, and I'm going to show you what I admire to be on Amazon. What I have been looking for and what I'm doing all this extra hard work in is hopefully going to get me. This is my goal. This is my vision. Never talked about this, never told anybody. This person is someone who I've followed and found a long, long time ago. I don't know them. I haven't reached out to them. I haven't asked them any questions. I don't just ask sellers questions usually. If they approach me or something, I've always been, interactive. But let's hop over there right now. Let's just show you something really interesting. Again, I pray that you find this interesting because you should. And if you don't find this interesting, I might be searching for another line of sellables, because this is what you want to look for and be in the collectibles. And I've got a lot of stuff up. I know what I'm talking about. I've got my prices down. I sell stuff for way higher, but this guy rocks. This guy really rocks. So let's hop over there right now. Okay, I've turned myself off on here. I want you to be able to see this whole thing. You don't need to see me. Who cares who's telling you this? This is the jumping frog. I would honestly expect everybody who's in here, who's paying to see these videos here in Patreon, should go to this page and look at this guy's stuff. I know he's got a 95% positive, which on eBay, would be bad. Amazon's are totally different. He's got 292 ratings. If you don't do Amazon, you don't know, but for every maybe 800 items you sell, you may get one feedback. Most people don't leave feedback on Amazon. It's just the way it's been for a long time. I've experienced it personally. So, and it may be as high as 800. Most people don't even know where to leave feedback, in all honesty. I usually don't even go back and leave feedback. And we buy a lot of art supplies and clothing for us to wear and shoes and all kinds of stuff off of Amazon, especially with the Prime. We've been in Prime for a long, long time. Because, my kids watch the TV and, the videos videos and stuff. So I use Prime. I'm a big, huge Prime fan. I've been Prime member for probably since almost they've had it, because my kids get their school books, college books, my son gets from Amazon, much cheaper there than Cheggs in some cases. So anyway, this is something that doesn't scare me off the 95%. I'm just going to look at his last 30 days. He's got 22 counts, and that's over here. Here's a breakdown. This is basically a store evaluation. You can look at this for pretty much any store you want. Don't lead much into these figures on here. It's not like eBay, as I said. You can ask anybody who's done Amazon for a long time, especially someone who sells a ton of items, like let's say Scott the Bearded Picker or something like that. He will tell you it's hundreds of sale items sell before you get one feedback. That's my personal experience. So looking at his 22 count of items that sold in the last 30 days, he could have sold thousands of items in the last 30 days, in mostly the collectibles and vintage paper. Again, and he's got a lifetime. Again, that's not a huge factor here. In the last 90 days, he sold, let's just average it off and say he's got 60 items, 20 items average a month he's selling. His average price, who knows what it is, because his prices are all over the place. In a second here, we're going to show you how many items he has. For the most part, he's got really good feedback here. If this is you, which I really doubt, if you've got this store going on, you'd be on my page, because this is well in advance of what I have. We've got a couple thousand items on Amazon, literally. And only because it's too hard to manually take stuff down when you sell a bunch of items. I would hate to list 22,000 or 30,000 items or whatever the case may be if I'm only going to list paper items and not any of the other categories on Amazon, and then have to take stuff down. Because every day I could be having to take down 50, 60 items off of another site, and that would just not be practical. It would take a long time. We've tried to step our game up in putting cross-listing. That's why we went into Sellbrite. This guy has got to be selling on more than one site. This could be the Paper King, the guy I know from, I don't personally know him, but it's somebody I've chatted to a long time ago. And again, I don't reach out to people very much and stuff like this. I do follow and watch what they do. I would hate to, sell out myself and say, hey, I've been following, trying to mimic you. I don't do that. So the point is, a guy on eBay used to have 100 and some odd thousand items of paper, and he quit doing paper. I think he was the Paper King or something like that. I wish I could remember. I'm sure I have it written down. If I can find it, I will. And he stopped doing it. He dropped his listings down, and he had over 100,000 to 10,000 on eBay, and said he's going to take all those listings somewhere else. My guess is the only way he's doing that many quantity and having them all over the place, and to be able to do that means he's got a third-party app. And this is, we're talking 5 years ago this guy did this. So my guess is this is probably him. I've been doing this for a long time, and I investigate everything. I'm anal retentive. I was talking to Chris, who's in here too as well, Thrift Shop Hustler. Call out to you, Chris, about this, and he goes overboard on researching and stuff just like I do. So this is what you got to do if you're going to be successful, in my personal opinion. This is what I have to do. I shouldn't say you all have to do that, but I had to do this to be successful. I have to know all these little things because my brain will work overtime and it won't give up until I know it. So it's just easier just to do it because I've got ADHD and ADD and all that kind of stuff, probably OCD, any of the things you can have. I had them as a child. I've had issues. I don't do the medication. But anyway, long story short, I'm into this stuff. I'm into the figures and researching. So this has led me to this guy for a long time. And this is what I've been working for a couple years now, figuring out the best avenue. And then I've procrastinated, worried, decided, heck, I just better do this. If I would have done it a long time ago, I could have been where this guy's at. I'm not going to look at his return policy. All that stuff, I've done it many times. You should look up the Jumping Frog on Amazon, okay? If you want to know the easiest way to find it and you're not apt on Amazon, type in the Jumping Frog and then click down to categories, collectibles, and then pick one of the vintage paper you see. Once you get into there, you're going to see his store that says sold by the Jumping Frog. Just click on that and you'll come up to his storefront. You'll be able to see everything the guy has. That's the way I tell those who don't do a lot of Amazon selling and stuff and research on Amazon. That's your easiest bet to go in there. So let's go look at his page now. This is him. This is his store. He has over 50,000 items. And over 50,000 items could mean he has 150,000 items, just to let you know. He's got close to 100,000. I mean, I stopped counting. I'm guesstimating at least 100,000 items in this guy's store. Of various different types. This is just a breakdown of what he does. He's got Headline Sports, sports cards he sells, Pez, you name it, he sells it. He's got just a ton, a plethora of items here in his store. I mean, it's just a ton of stuff. No matter how you look at it, there's a ton of stuff in his store of all kinds. He's got print ads, full-page print ads, comic books, which I have comic books too. I've started some. I'm going to start cranking out massive quantities. This is my goal. This is my business plan. This is my vision. This is the goal at the end of the road. This is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is the reason I'm putting these extra things and investing all this stuff. This pays me and increases my income immensely if I get to this point. Those numbers, that 22 feedback is huge for something like this. And again, you may not think 22 feedback in a month, that's nothing, but it's hundreds of items sell to get one feedback on Amazon. Hundreds and hundreds for many people. It just depends on what you sell, but most people don't know much about feedback on Amazon. I'm telling you, we don't mess with it. Most people don't mess with it. I always leave it on eBay, but I don't even think about it on Amazon, in all honesty. And so many people are like that. Most people don't look at the seller's feedback in the first place on Amazon for the most part, because Amazon covers anything that's sold on the site, and everybody knows that. So again, this guy's pretty good. This guy's what I look for. I would rather have a higher percentage of positive. He's got a 95, but again, this is Amazon. This is a whole new world on this. This doesn't compare to eBay in any way, shape, or form. You can't compare eBay's feedback to Amazon's feedback any day. They're apples and oranges. They don't sync. It's just not a fair comp. So this guy's really good in my book. And you know I'm good on my stuff, and I try to be honest and do everything I can to promote safety and security for anybody buying from me. So this guy is it. And looking over his stuff, let's just open up one of the listings. And you need to look at this guy's page. There's customer reviews on these books, so you can tie these vintage ones in just as easily. Again, he's legit. He's got everything he needs. He's tied his stuff in with the listings that were there. He's probably, as I said, he's using a third-party app. There's no way else to get this many stuff up and get it going and stuff. The books are ranked. Who cares where they're ranked at? I don't worry about that all on any of this. Getting the items up here is a quantities game on Amazon. The more you have, the more you're going to sell. So like me, if I can get 50,000 listings cross-listed on Amazon, even though I'm not going to sell as many of the paper items on Amazon as I would on eBay, I'm still going to sell a high chunk of them either way. This is proof that stuff does work, looking at this guy's account. And again, this is my vision. This is what I am heading towards. This is the goal of why I've got Sellbrite, why I'm talking about all these other things that we do. This is where we are going to have this many up. I want you guys to see this. Don't look at it from what I'm doing or my standpoint. Look at it and where, if you like collectibles, you're new to collectibles, you've been selling for a long time, clothing or whatever else, and now you want to get into collectibles, there is a market for it on Amazon. This guy would not spend all this time and energy to get these listings up on Amazon if he's not making money. I know it's only $40 to list all of these items. 100,000 items on Amazon, it costs you $40 to list them. I know that. So he doesn't have a whole fortune invested into it, but he has to be using a third-party app. With this many listings, he's got to be selling a lot of items. He's spending $400 or $500, my guesstimate minimum, depending on the service. Now, he could have an older service and be grandfathered in, or he could be paying for total amounts of listings versus amounts sold. Sellbrite charges you only for what you sell. It does not charge you for how many listings you have. So again, he's probably $450 in between just to have his stuff on Amazon cross-listed. That would be my guess. This gentleman may also have his own store, apart from Amazon, apart from eBay. I am almost sure that this is the same gentleman. Again, I'm not going to reach out to him. I'm not telling anybody to do that either. I don't like to, bother other folks like that in many aspects. Of course, I don't mind you guys talking or emailing me at all, so I don't mean it like that. But, I don't pry on people's business layouts. I do look at them and follow them and try and mimic them, just like the zoom-ins on my photos. The zoom-ins work. I guarantee it. I learned that from somebody else, one of my competitors. And then there's other people who followed me before I even did YouTube who followed along suit as well. So, This is how you learn. I copy other people's meanings. Now, also, he's got some issues here, too. He could get dinged on some of these. Just FYI, you're not allowed to have that. There is a thing. I know somebody personally who got a letter and warning from Amazon for not having white backgrounds with so much of your items shown. That's a no-no on Amazon. And I didn't really want to do that. It's the reason why I just listed what we could, and we don't have all of our listings cross-listed. I'm trying to fix my photos before I put them up on Amazon. Amazon stuff sells much better if the photo, like look at this Iron Man here, it's going to sell better if it looks like this on Amazon. People are prone to buy the ones that look so much better on Amazon versus eBay any day of the week because everybody is used to seeing these quality, the Tom Swift quality of photos where it fills the image, nothing else in it, over anything else. So people think this looks unprofessional. I'm not saying it does, don't get me wrong, because I would possibly have done something like this in the past too. So, but the point is that there's a difference on Amazon. You've got to have them looking like the Tom Swift and not Iron Man up here. So just FYI, he's obviously used eBay photos. That's my honest guess on this. Again, I think I know what I'm talking about. I'm like 99% sure that I'm right on who this is, and the same works. Now, I could go here and look up more in depth than it. I don't really care about whether it is or isn't. The point is that this guy has an incredibly good store with a massive amount of collectibles, all paper. Everything on here is paper. It goes on and on and on and on and on. Again, 50,000 results, over 50,000. There could be 200,000 items. I don't know. But my goal is to be this big on Amazon as well as anywhere else I can get. So this is my goal, and this is the point. And again, look at this site. This is the third time I'm telling you, go look at the Jumping Frog and look through his stuff. Spend some time looking at images. And again, here's another explanation on why the photos are like this. This one was imported in from another app. This is probably an eBay photo. This one here was done strictly for, his third-party app, and then he actually broadcast it out to all the sites from there. That's the difference, and I'm sure of it after doing this that that's the case. These are specifically for Amazon. I would be pretty sure of that as well, too. So you can sell vintage toys that are opened on Amazon. I do it all the time. So people miss out on that fact. They miss out in toys, collectibles. That would go in collectibles versus toys. This is a collectible figure now. It's 96 and 97. Again, you got to get ungated in collectibles to do that. I know several members are still trying to get ungated right now. Again, it took me 11 tries more than 2 years ago, over a month time frame to get ungated. It took me 11 resubmissions over and over again. If it didn't work, and again, to Charles there, I still have not been able to find that. I know it's here somewhere, the responses. I'll have to just dig into it more. But the point is that I did up it when they had turned me down. I do remember, though, that I increased the amount on my sheets and said that I've got 50,000 listings or something, I think I said, ready to roll on Amazon right now. What's going on? Why can't I get on? Do you not want more business? Blah, blah, blah. That was my comments in the response to them. Please tell me what's going on. I've been selling for years. This is the only business that I run. This is what I do for a full-time business. That's what you need to say in that. I'm almost sure that's what I had in there on the last one. This is what I do for a full-time business. If you want to try and get in there, if you're trying to get ungated in collectibles, it is worth it. I do make well enough to pay for everything I do on Amazon, and then an immense amount more on top of it. It's direct deposits in my bank. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's just like clockwork. And with a third-party app, it takes everything down, so all you do is ship it out. For most of the collectibles, obviously, you're shipping it out. You're not going to FBA collectibles. I think maybe you can, but I would never do it. It's too hard to process small single items. And I know people do small single brand new items. It's just not my thing. I don't want to mess with it. I'd rather just ship them out here. If it means we get to a point where I have to hire somebody just to ship, that is fine. I would rather do that. So again, just looking over this, just looking over all of the stuff he has. These are all items that, in the past I would have never thought. Now, I've had Mike in here talk about selling matchbooks. Now, Mike said he sells them in lots. which does sell, you know, and Mike pointed that out, and I will agree. He is 100% right. They do sell lots. I just haven't messed with them or thought about it in that way, and I may in the future now because of Mike's comments. So again, subscribers or not, you guys can teach me something too on many occasions. So the point is that he probably can sell them better on singly wise on Amazon. You know, and I'm just telling you from what I see. Now, you can use a black background if the item's white like this, and I don't think they've ever said a word, but he's limited it down to that small amount of image around it. So again, it's the same kind of stuff that I sell. All zoom-ins just like I do. And again, with the zoom-ins like I do on eBay, they're ready to go on Amazon. And again, sometimes the black background in here, I don't know, maybe he's never been dinged. Maybe he's got so much up that they don't say anything. It's hard to say with Amazon. You know, they could go 2 years of an item up that should have never been up, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere tell you can't sell it anymore. You've been selling it for 2 years, and so it means nothing. And here he's even got Victorian trade cards up in his store. You know, same thing as us. So, you know, this guy is a roller. This guy is somebody who I've followed for a long time. He's doing a third-party app just like I'm talking about, and he's making it work. Again, no one would take the effort and time to make sure all the things match and change over from this type of photo to this type of photo unless they've got a third-party app and they're making money at it. There's just no other way around it. And again, as I said, the route to go is to have a ton of items, good items, like, you know, stuff like we have, and to know, you know, where there's a limit on it. I can keep listing because I keep selling and my sales keep going up. So I'm not worried about hitting a mark where, man, you got too many items up and we're spending too much on listing. Because as I list items, even if my listing fees go up, my profits go up too. So I don't care about that. When I hired people, my labor was gone the first day I started using it because I was making more than, you know, I was spending on labor by far in returns on sales from the items that they were able to increase on my inventory and that would sell. Again, I sell 100, or I list 100 items, 3 to 5% of those is going to sell the day I list them. It's a given. I don't care what anybody else tells you. That's the fact. It happens every time I do it. I've done this for like 7 years. So anybody telling you it doesn't work hasn't listed enough items in their life, or is listing bad items, or doesn't know their research. Again, if I didn't research properly, I wouldn't be where I'm at. If I didn't hire, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I don't think it's possible, the wife agrees, we've talked about it many times, to get anywhere near the amount of stuff I have by myself. Usually the bigwigs that I know run big collectible stores or mail order businesses that do stuff like this and have this many things up. Now we do mail orders to some extent, so you know, I'm ratcheting up our level. This is my goal, as I said. I'm not going to keep reiterating that, but this is my goal. I've looked over this guy's for hours. I've spent, you know, a lot of time looking at, you know, how he's listed and the different categories he's using, which section goes where. Every aspect of this guy's store, I've tried to hone in to see. And again, he's got black backgrounds on some. It's not technically what you're supposed to do from what I say, but maybe there's an exemption that I'm unaware of on Amazon. You know, Amazon answers aren't the greatest to get them back. And then stuff like this, even the boards aren't great. I've got some Reddits and stuff that I do follow. And I've asked that question here, and I haven't got a straight answer. So everybody's confused as I am on this. But I know 100% anything new is supposed to have a white background with 85% of your photo, your images, only the item, and the rest of it just white background. That's a rule on Amazon. So, you know, I was hesitant. I may, after, you know, been thinking about this a while, just list them the way I've got them. But some of the photos I have aren't the greatest. So, and again, you're seeing what this guy sells. Same things as I sell. Same everything. I sell Tom Swift. I've shown him in there. You know, so this is part of what's going on with this. So, again, just before I forget to, next video here, I'm going to show you repairing that box from the hat I showed in the live feed. I'm going to clean the hat. It's not a huge process, so it's not going to be a long one on that. We'll do some questions, and I'll throw you some items all in that same video. Might be a little longer one then. And then another bolo here. I've had some requests to go back in on books again, so we'll do books, and I'll throw some more stamps in the next bolo for next week. So that's both of your videos for next week. I do have some videos here. The first one's going up next week as a test. I'm going to see if I can add some copyrighted material without getting dinged, since I'm not going to be sharing it on YouTube. I've also tried with DivShare and Dropbox maybe to post videos up there. I would have to pay for the service, so if it's worth it, I will pay you know, the full-fledged business account fee out of, you know, part of what we're getting. Again, I don't make much money at all on any of these things I do, even with the Patreon, because I do spend a lot on overhead to edit and all this kind of stuff, and it is a lot of time. So part of the money that we are going to get, I'm thinking about doing that to actually be able to use copyrighted material without getting busted on it. So it would be able to give you more information and show you things that I couldn't in any way, shape, or form. Like when I talk about music, I could play the music without having to worry. And I think that's fine to do it in a non-YouTube video, obviously, because other people do it, and I don't see anything wrong with it, because it's for an educational purpose. I'm not ripping off anything else. And technically on Amazon or on YouTube, you should be able to do it for educational, but there's some fine lines in that. So that is my goal on here, is to be able to do stuff like that. So when I want to talk about something, or we're going to talk about a TV show or a character like Land of the Giants or something like that, I can show you some clippage of it so you can see the key characters, and I can, you know, name things, or I can show you some Tom Corbett or whatever the case may be. That is my honest goal. So it won't just be a normal video like you see on YouTube. It would be something a step up from that. It would be real solid information that you wouldn't have to look up. I hate that I can't play, and when I'm talking about like a record or something that's worth something, that I can't play the song. I'd love to be able to play Sing, Sing, Sing for you or something like that, or In the Mood by Glenn Miller or something, but I can't do it. So again, I am honestly, this is the next step here on Patreon. You are hopefully going to get that if I can figure out the Dropbox thing and hope that that's something feasible. I don't know how it's going to play is my issue. As I said, I'm testing something on YouTube first. Hopefully it's, if I get a small ding on it, I'll just take it and won't do it again. I have no dings on our account at all, so I'm not too worried on one, but and it's going to be something mild. So anyway, we'll find a way, as I said in the past. So that's going to be the extra footage here. And again, I'm going to give you content. It's not just going to be me throwing in footage. The content, the footage that I put in is going to be there for a reason. I'm not just going to use it for a filler. It's going to be there to show you something. That is my 100% goal, the honest goal of what I'm working towards. But anyway, back to this gentleman here. So again, condition-wise, he's got a standard condition-wise. He's got the standards on everything. So you can just make a template. I've looked at these on all of his items across the board. Now, he's using movies. This gentleman isn't listing everything in every specific category exactly how you should. Now, I don't see it's him doing it either. This is the third-party app. When you're listing from one site, from like eBay to Amazon, this stuff happens, and I've personally seen it. So again, this is probably the way he had to do it, just to get it so he could transfer them and cross-list them. So again, I've looked into this extremely extensively, enough to spin my head around in circles. It's you know, feels like I took a 4-month college level class to get this going here, and cram coursed it, and then I you know, crammed for my exam is what I feel like after getting to the stage to understand every aspect of another listing. And no, again, these are all key things that you'll see on a collectibles listing. So like on the forms you fill out for approval, there's a authenticity provider question on there. Always put that you'll pay. You want to use a service on that. Always put that in there, because Amazon will assume that you're going to use their service, so they get a commission off that. So even if you don't do that on like artwork or anything, even if you're not going to sell artwork or anything, that's the case. And if you have the forms too for Amazon, I know I'm hopping around here, but I don't want to forget anything. If you have the forms for Amazon, do not put that you want to sell artwork, fine art. Put, I do not wish to sell fine art, only collectibles. That's another thing you should do on there. Fine art is a horrendously hard category to get into. I personally only know one person that is in it in my entire life. I've only met one. It's very hard to get into, and it's an art gallery that I've dealt with in the past. It's the only reason they're on is because they actually do curation as well. You have to have curation experience or publication experience with creator magazines and such forth to get ungated in fine arts on Amazon. I've already went through that whole spiel. Again, I wanted to put some of my artwork on there as well in fine arts, but the curator thing is my stepping stone problem there. I could go through a gallery and have them put it on theirs, but then again, there's other issues with that. So I just don't want any copyright issues coming and somebody trying to rip off my stuff. So anyway, this should give you a bunch to think about. This should hopefully put your mind at a spot where you can say, I've got a vision for what I want too. Again, this guy's got maybe 100,000 listings at the least in my personal book on this. Over 50,000 search results. Even if you only had 50,000. Having 50,000 on Amazon where you sell them higher than you do on other sites is a big difference between having 50,000 on eBay. eBay, I would have a better chance on selling them, but I'm going to maybe sell them for less. Amazon, I'm probably going to sell almost anything I sell on Amazon for more. So, you know, just take that into consideration. Again, this is just for you guys. I know this is not a huge secret, but most people wouldn't have searched out and found something like this. Searching Amazon for specific sellers in certain categories is not the easiest thing to do when there's so many items up. There's millions of vintage items and collectibles on Amazon. Millions. Maybe there's more on Amazon than on eBay. I don't know. I haven't, you know, broken it down to that. There's no real way to tell from what I can see because most of these are just like my items. They've got exemptions and there's no, you know, number, you know, tie-in number. You're making up your what's it, AISN number. You're making up the actual item number for your own items when you're ungated. That's how it works with collectibles. There are no barcodes. There's nothing that you need to get. Amazon gives you permission to make those up. They assign one of the, like the main search number for Amazon, but you assign the item number from there. And there's no charges, no other fees to list any of these items. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. I mean, this is where I'm going. This is where you're going to see where you're going to see me in the future. I may not share it all because again, I don't want to get dinged. It's much easier to get dinged on your feedback on Amazon than it is anywhere else that I personally have seen. That's why I say if feedback on Amazon does not bother me if the feedback is somewhat bad on there. Again, it's not bad from my standpoint. It's only bad when compared to eBay, and you can't compare the two. So again, I'm going to tell you one last time, please go to the Jumping Frog and look up this person's page. This should be your goal. This should be everybody's goal out there, is to have this much stuff up on Amazon, eBay, and on your own site, and then cross-list whatever you can on other sites that are reasonably. Again, I wouldn't just push these out there. Some platforms are supposedly going to Discogs. Sellbrite doesn't do some sites, so I can't cross-list on some sites through Sellbrite, but they do the majority of them, you know. So you've got Walmart and Amazon, eBay, Etsy as well, because we do have an Etsy account that we do stuff with too. So again, when you can sell them, and like on Amazon, Homemade by Amazon. So if you do Etsy, you should honestly look into it. And if you haven't seen, Amazon has added that. It's a full-fledged category on their main search criteria. So if I go up to Amazon's, let's just pop over here. So if I go up to Amazon's main search, you can actually pop down to Homemade right here. So again, Homemade by Amazon, you should be able to get approved in it. I would do it now before it gets to be a flooded category. It could be something that they gate in the future because they don't want just wish-wash in there, just like they gated collectibles and things like that. There's too many ways to cost Amazon money if you're selling, you know, bad items or you don't know how to grade or something on collectibles. So that's part of the reason I feel Amazon is still gating the category the way they are. You know, because it takes a special type of person to spend all the extra time to research and know what their collectibles are. You know, the Jumping Frog has done that work. He is at a level where I will be. I'm not going to say hopefully be, but I'm going to say will be, because the minute I get, you know, Sellbrite, you know, totally set up and everything ready to go and all the category issues and my stuff cleaned up, I'm going to have 50,000 listings on Amazon. So again, that's my dream. That's my vision, to be able to boost it up to 100,000 on Amazon. So again, that's my dream. So I want to be able to sell, you know, $10,000, $20,000 worth of collectibles on Amazon to rival my eBay business. You know, it would be wonderful to do 40 or 50,000 a month in just collectibles, and it is fully possible. You know, we've got the sourcing material to do that. A lot of people may have a drawback and say you can't get enough collectibles. As of right now, I don't have the issue. So anyway, hopefully that was an eye-opener, and hopefully that'll be a big help for you. Well, there you go. That's what I got today. Again, comments, questions, whatever you got, pop them down below. Community tab used for any photos you need identification for. We've got some big news coming really soon here. I'm not going to shoot it out here, but we've got some collaboration going to happen here real soon here. And you're going to see some things on here. I'm not going to shoot out too much on the itinerary yet, but you will know ahead of time. Just because I want to work out all the details with some folks first before we get everything going. So, but again, that's what I have for you today.
you.